The ticket price. This does not shock me at all. What did I say earlier? The WNBA was about to F around and find out, and these rival teams were going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, they're finding out.
The crowd roared as the lights went out, and it briefly resembled the WNBA. Had at last penetrated the ceiling. After years of battling for recognition, battling for headlines with full seats and cultural significance, all of a sudden viewership numbers that were clicked were not on the charts, tickets were selling out. Energy that extended from societal media, from homes to the national broadcasts, it was more than just buzz. Making history, but then just like that, one little headline was altered. One gamer disqualified everyone for a few weeks without a serious injury, or league-wide simply a quick update, and the announcement, the whole vibe changed with that one update set off a domino effect, and nobody anticipated a decline in ticket sales. Engagement decreased, and sales of merchandise dropped. What appeared to be a flourishing empire revealed cracks all of a sudden, as if removing a single brick from a huge tower and observing the entire thing quiver, and a tough inquiry was asked at that very moment. Brought into focus was this explosive increase in women's basketball is actually an indication of long-term expansion, or was it entirely dependent on one transcendent superstar's back? The drop-off wasn't a pretty answer. Revealed the extent to which the league's the key to momentum was one name, one presence. Furthermore, the WNBA is now being forced by reality. A wake-up in an unpleasant position call that it may have a much bigger, more delicate than CEOs and fans would want to admit.
The Caitlin Clark effect has been a net positive for the WNBA and all of its teams. But the star guard expected to miss a minimum of 2 weeks. The league will see the flip side of her impact, and there are already initial data points. This is front office sports, no conspiracies, no BS from them. Statistical data.
Prior to the rumors of her absence, even before the WNBA was founded, was riding the momentum of a tidal wave. The Indiana Fever game was now a must-attend. Tickets for the performance were disappearing quickly. Some are selling for much than $80 only to enter through the courtside seats. Aiming further higher, the excitement wasn't only excitement, it was truly electrifying and unstoppable. And it pushed the stadium and rival teams. Officials will make audacious, risky choices with the intention of cashing in. Take, for instance, the Chicago Sky didn't just alter their strategy, they went. Allen rescheduled their confrontation with their cozy 2,400-seat gave them a fever. Winrest Arena, to the enormous 21,000-seat capacity, the United Center was constructed as a venue for NBA players, sold-out events, and we were wagering that Caitlin, the star power of Clark, could fill every one seat. This was more than just logistics. The statement was a whole gamble that depended on the capacity of the player to pack the house and brighten the league, since there's no however. Everyone was aware of the fans' identities. Visiting.
To hit the panic button 48 hours after news hits that Caitlin Clark is injured and she'll be missing 2 weeks, the market has responded, and the market has told the WNBA, we don't want this. We want her, but we don't want this.
Next came the when everything changed. What began as a whisper swiftly became into full-length news reports. Caitlin Clark, the irrepressible power behind the WNBA's momentum, was sidelined, and it was similar to that the league's atmosphere collapsed. It wasn't a slow reaction, was immediate, and the market acted without hesitation. It answered with a hard, icy reality. This WNBA version without her really didn't have the same significance, as the ensuing quiet wasn't just disappointing. The fans were deafened. Didn't arrive, prices plummeted, and desire that used to seem endless vanished overnight. Take a look at that Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky game, at what was previously one of the United Center's, the league's hottest tickets, beginning at $86 and falling to just $25, and after a few hours, that's astounding 71% decrease is essentially unprecedented, and a severe gut punch to the organizers who had wagered on a sellout. And it continued. The identical crash occurred again when the Washington Mystics played Fever on the road. Empty seats, reduced costs, and brutal reality setting, and this wasn't even simply put. It was a loud wake-up call. Evident and unavoidable.
Chicago Sky can't sell out their own 9,000-something seat arena like it is. They couldn't when they were kind of decent. they're a dumpster fire now. And now that Caitlin Clark is injured, the ticket prices for the Fever and Sky game just plummeted to Hades.
Once a sexy, the $41 ticket was shortly lost. Reduction in shine to merely $22, that's a startling 47% dive, the type of descent that leaves the front offices and fans amazed. And Zoom wasn't just one game. Take a step back and consider the wider picture. In 5 significant Indiana Fever games during a period, average ticket of 2 weeks costs had been skyrocketing at about $137. However, with the news of the injuries, the average fell to barely $80, a drastic 42% decrease in hardly any fortnight, evidence how ruthlessly the market responded.
They stink now. Yeah, it's about me too. No, it's not. And this is proof.
This was more than a slight decline in interest. It was a loud declaration from the fans: no tickets. No Caitlin Clark. The demand was obvious. People weren't merely attending the WNBA, they were seeing her, and during her off-duty hours, the entire atmosphere in the court transformed. You could sense that the previous buzz had vanished. Before the game had began, it felt like someone released all of the air in the building. That uncanny quiet revealed a lot. Larger narrative: the league's ascent in fame, the one that everyone was it wasn't as safe to celebrate, appeared to be, because there was a delicate reality. This enormous increase wasn't motivated by widespread curiosity. It was almost all of the ride is on the shoulders of one unstoppable star.
To games over the next 2 weeks have dropped 42% since Caitlin Clark's injury announcement, an average ticket price of $137, all the way down to $80.
This wasn't limited to a famous person sitting playing a few of games. It was a harsh emphasis on the WNBA's and censored deepest fissures. The figures were honest, unavoidable, ruthless, and frigid. They validated what many had suspected, but few people dared to mention Caitlin Clark aloud. Is the engine, not simply the player, driving the league, as though the whole her gasoline is being used for the procedure, while everyone else is merely following behind. In an attempt to absorb some of the heat, she produces the increase in popularity that crowded stadiums and popular social media videos, the increasing purchases of tickets. It was all hailed as evidence of a league's transformation, they said. A corner, a brand new era. Indication that basketball for women was finally gaining the recognition it merited. But now this instance revealed a harsh reality. Almost all of that momentum was connected to a single generational celebrity, and offstage the league doesn't simply lose on the court. Enthusiasm, it becomes less distinct because the WNBA still doesn't have a leader beyond Caitlin. Whole roster of stars who are equally bankable, no comprehensive list of notable individuals to keep the torch going after she leaves. And the true problem is that the kind no highlight reels can be fixed.
People are selling their tickets, definitely can't get face value, so what do? They just continue to lower and lower and lower and lower and lower the price. This isn't all resellers, folks. Hate to break it to you. A majority of these are everyday normal people. A majority of these are everyday normal people who watch Caitlin Clark in Iowa, watch her in her first year in Indiana, said, man, I want to watch that. I want to go to those games. I want to experience that. They won't be able to experience it. Time to say.
It served as a reality check. The league was unable to overlook if only a Caitlin Clark's brief absence could produce this type of extensive collision and curiosity. What was said regarding the actual strength of the WNBA's base, there were more than 1 or 2 games involved, was a warning sign pointing across the league's complete business strategy. The everything was affected by the ripple effect. Excitement, sales hype, and the league's financial prospects, even the games that were intended to be major events, such as Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky, it came to represent the WNBA. Suddenly, their newly gained impetus vanished. Sparkle, the vitality, vanished. The large dreams of venues that were sold out became the unpleasant truth of vacant seat rows. Wasn't merely a decline in numbers, it was in the atmosphere was clearly disintegrating. The buzz was noticeable even to casual fans. Was gone. This star wasn't like the others. Harm from which people continued to emerge, habit or allegiance. This was different. Was sincere. The league placed a large wager on Clark's attempt to be a superstar had failed, and real-time action was taking place. Without she lost the enchantment. The notion that one A-star could elevate the entire league fell under stress, and abruptly numerous squads were left frantically engaged in combat to remain pertinent in the void she left behind.
I mean, it's more statistical proof, data, to confirm exactly what we've been saying, that Caitlin Clark is driving this whole ship, this whole bus. She's driving it, everybody else, get in the back. Get in the back.
Alongside Caitlin Clark abruptly removed from the spotlight, the focus just changed rather than waned, and it hit Angel Reese directly. For many, she was the heir apparent to the moment. Her audacious presence, is indisputable charm, and a way of making trends had established her as a household name. She had established a strong brand in the court, captivating to admirers who viewed her not only as a player, but she was also a cultural influence. Always included in the discussion in the news and never hesitant to make audacious assertions, such as the now well-known claim that viewers watched because of her. The WNBA had confidence, was swagger, and the league unexpectedly lacking its most well-known name. That sort of bravado was just what it required. In dire need of someone to take over the Hoover and maintain the momentum, the WNBA shifted its attention to Reese in the hopes her notoriety could encourage the same type of hype, sellout audiences, and nationwide. Clark's attention-grabbing performance last week after a week. The big question was finally here. Could Angel's celebrity really carry the burden of the league's demands?
The marquee matchup in the WNBA, like it or love it, rivalry or not, Chicago Sky, Indiana Fever, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, that is the marquee matchup in the WNBA, and those tickets are crashing just as well. From $86 48 hours ago to $25. And by the time June 7th rolls around, it might cost you a bag of Skittles and some Lay's potato chips to get in there.
However, this is where the data started to show a quite different picture, and a far more awkward image once the court no longer featured Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese was the center of attention. The expectations put a great deal of strain on Sky High. This was her chance to demonstrate that she could produce the same buzz drive, ticket sales, and take center stage equally vehemently, but the market voiced and its message harshly and clearly. To be honest, I don't think that highly of it. Expected matchup between Indiana and the Chicago Sky, the United Center's Fever game, was intended to be a historic battle, a daring display of the Reese versus Clark competition in a facility the size of the NBA. The league had high hopes for this one, and it was filled house a statement or a major moment if basketball for women had actually reached. Nevertheless, the second Clark was declared ticket demand out, that fantasy unraveled. Nocived, the thrill vanished quite immediately, and the enormous arena that was meant to reverberate with vitality felt hollow and was much too large for the situation. And it wasn't only that particular evening wasn't an anomaly. The trend swiftly gained traction. Other highlight games, such as the clash between Fever and Mystic and Reese, Baltimore was unable to avoid the decline, was widely marketed as the star attraction. However, when a $41 ticket fell, a 47% drop in the message to just $22, Reese's presence became evident. Wasn't sufficient to ignite the same. Clark had started a wildfire even in cities in which Reese had strong connections, and simply put, the headline billing the Fever pitch didn't adhere to the excitement that was present in theory. However, the fandom that was absent.
And we have plenty of evidence that proves Angel Reese is not qualified to carry the lead.
Then the apprehensive Angel Reese is noted for her quietness. Frank and assured regarding this, she continues to receive enormous attention. Notably silent during ticket sales fell, and there was a dramatic decline in fan interest. Following Caitlin Clark's injury, silence raised uncomfortable queries among fans, and league experts agreed that Reese purposefully remaining mute to avoid difficult, awkward questions. Or did she silence inadvertently reveals the crushing weight of what was expected of her, unable to cope with such high levels of pressure? Even she might have been overcome by it. In any case, Reese was ensnared in a difficult situation. She's definitely in the news-grabbing star, a well-known person with a powerful presence. But the need for her to take Clark's place and transport the league's financial load was enormous. The figures were obvious and uncompromising. She just couldn't do it on the sharp contrast between her own and Reese's fame and her capacity to continuously increase ticket sales. In comparison to it was difficult for Clark to overlook this. Made a distinct division and a challenging truth that the league and Rhee would need to confront.
The get-in tickets for the Fever's rivalry game against the Chicago Sky on June 7th are down 71% from $86 to $25.
Perhaps you're wondering, what about all of Angel Rhee's college accomplishments, her indisputable highlights while attending LSU moments that went viral and captivated millions of eyes, and her extensive social media following that surpasses many? Shouldn't professional athletes do all that? Easily convert into WNBA success. It is a fair assumption to believe her personal brand and star power would naturally transcend and control the similar degree of focus. But the sharp reality, as exposed by the most recent WNBA market downturn, indicates a very different. Caitlin Clark's tale has a roughly unparalleled capacity to attract large groups, frequently filling venues to capacity, creating a record-breaking demand for tickets, and breaking records and skyrocketing costs, in stark contrast to the impact of Reese. At least has not yet changed the needle in the likewise. In regard to ticket sales, has extensive economic sway throughout the league. This isn't intended to lessen Reese's unquestionable talent is ferocious competitiveness or captivating charm. She is definitely an intriguing athlete and self-made celebrity who flourishes in the limelight. Yet the league's precarious dependence on the player has been made public, exposing the distinct boundaries of even its most powerful backup choice, the well-known second in popularity star.
These prices are going to continue to drop.
Wednesday's Fever game versus the Mystics at CFG Bank Arena in Baltimore has a get-in price of $22.
The harsh truth, clearly revealed by the market's response, draws attention to a vital difference that many people don't notice. There's the vastly different world of being a star and having a sincere attraction. You can be unquestionably well-known and a household name with millions of fans, and still don't have that special ability to draw big audiences or enormous audience size, as some unpleasant according to critics. You can become renowned. It failed to draw in even the smallest audience. This unpleasant reality become the expensive lesson for the WNBA. League's covert wager that Angel Rhee will take action. As a robust secondary pillar that can bearing a sizable portion of the league's financial influence, without Caitlin Clark proved to be a grave error. Attendance and ticket prices fell, diminished, and the once bright vitality in arenas were notably less vibrant when Clark was ignored. In spite of Reese's enormous popularity, she was unable to stop the decline. It was more than simply how on the court one player accomplished it. Was a conspicuous breakdown of the league's more comprehensive marketing plan and its hazardous reliance on a small number of stars.
This game get-in was like $100 at one stage. This was $100 at one stage. Let's go one ticket. Or well, is it two tickets? Two tickets. Let's just see what it costs for court. Look at how many, oh my god, look at how many people are selling tickets.
Beyond the direct consequences, a deeper issue became apparent. The storyline surrounding the league's total excellence, when its most prominent star, the player who had previously changed underappreciated matches into must-watch, the focus was diverted from the happenings. From unique ability to obvious systemic defects, the key query was whether the league's output is actually good. Why does it depend so much on one player to pique curiosity? The increasing Angel Rhee was under pressure to carry this load only served to underline how the league is actually quite brittle. Reliant on a single name without a broad, robust appeal, this circumstance sent an unambiguous message. In the brutal world of fame in professional sports, by itself doesn't immediately convert into reliable monetary achievement.
But I'm like, I didn't realize just how bad it was gonna get. I didn't realize how bad. Like, they all moved arenas and everybody's trying to sell their tickets. Like, if you look, the get-in price on is $23.80. $23.80. is a get-in price for tomorrow.
The financial consequences of Clark's absence was much more profound and much more dangerous than the majority of casual fans may comprehend. The influence extended far beyond the significant decline in ticket sales. Empty seats in the arenas converted into enormous losses from a variety of revenue sources. Consider the hundreds of lives lost as a result of sales of items, the peaceful food and drink stands in the queues for concessions that once humming with enthusiastic admirers. Now, standing still, these sources of high-margin income essential for teams and locations disappeared almost immediately. It's critical to recall that the WNBA was already in existence, at a deficit that is said to be bleeding $40 million only the previous year. Therefore, this wasn't a slight setback, it was a serious financial scenario in which a large number of NBA owners have a vested interest in WNBA teams. Astute investors are accustomed to making money. Ventures started requesting clarifications when if this league will always be profitable, pit, and begin making a genuine profit for many. This increasing annoyance indicated a crucial time when the endurance of the financial backers were running dangerously thin.
Even though the mainstream media wants us to believe that Angel Reese is a huge star, we have years of evidence that proves otherwise. Like I say all the time, there is a huge difference between a star and a draw. You can be a star, you can be famous, and still not be able to draw flies to a fresh turf.
Adding more to the mounting anxiety is the impending negotiating a contract for new media rights. A lifeline worth millions of dollars is essential to the league's ability to survive. Value of this contract is a crucial component of any league of professional sports now. Financial stability is on the line. Balancing on Caitlin Clark's stable presence on the court that is magnetic if this agreement that was anticipated to provide a substantial financial boost is received. Less than anticipated due to their largest, the consequences of a star being sidelined would be terrible. It would imply even more stringent funds for groups with fewer resources for players and the excessive strain on the league to demonstrate its viability autonomously without always depending on its parents' financial assistance organization. The complete business plan, originally founded on the promise of consistent growth and growing earnings, are now revealed as dangerously brittle, depending nearly solely on the availability of health care and unparalleled allure of a single exceptional player.
Angel Reese and the WNBA have been using race to bring awareness to an incredibly bad product. Once you remove Caitlin Clark from the equation, there's no reason for people to watch this league, which is why people haven't been watching Angel Reese throughout her career.
Next is the harsh reality of the global large market looming. Rumors are circulating regarding Caitlin Clark's capacity prospects abroad in nations where there is a rise in basketball leagues, and with the support of substantial financial resources, she could go to some of these locations, allegedly make an astounding $20 million a year, which the WNBA, with its present financial constraints and salary cap, this configuration just isn't competitive. Isn't some far-fetched, improbable situation the possibility that the league's most talented, the most powerful celebrity may leave for a higher-paying deal overseas is a clear warning, demonstrating how intensely competitive worldwide in terms of basketball the scene is skill. If Clark or other elite athletes who examining the WNBA's financial limitations choose to play their game, the league may encounter terrible outcomes. This wouldn't only result in the loss of a top player, but putting the engine that powers the expansion of the WNBA could jeopardize the league's capacity to draw important sponsors, maintain its expanding fan base, and keep important broadcast agreements. In the end, it places the whole future of the league as a top basketball league destination in grave danger.
They're losing merchandise sales, they're losing food sales, they're losing beverage sales. They're losing big. They took a big gamble to get into that arena, and they're losing big because it's not going to be full, and those people aren't going to be buying things.
The WNBA's current predicament is extremely reflects a well-known pattern observed in other leagues of sports that have unintentionally centered their whole brand on one. Take Major League, transcendent superstar Lionel Messi, and soccer MLS. For instance, ticket sales, when Messi misses a game, decline, and rival teams rush to maintain supporters' attention and protect the excitement before the game. The WNBA finds itself in that precarious position. Stance, which is now glaringly evident that relying so much on merely having one or two top players isn't just a gamble, it's a tactic that's full of risk that might result in long-term actions. The league has tried to encourage other up-and-coming talents in the hopes to create new stars capable of producing broad enthusiasm. Yet nobody has nearly identical to Caitlin Clark's unparalleled impact in the theater or her capacity to enthrall viewers on national television.
They're getting a new media rights deal. That thing won't be worth shit if Caitlin Clark was to either get really injured and couldn't play or decided to just say, I'm not going to play here anymore, I'm going overseas. Where, by the way, they would pay her, my God, some of those countries might pay her $20 million a year to come over there and play. And I'm not.
This excessive dependence on a single player has generated some quite heated discussions, revealing an unadulterated sense of urgency inside a few league segments that some insiders have even made the grave suggestion that Caitlin, the biggest star in the league, Clark, ought to be given preferential treatment by referees. This is what they refer to as a superstar call. Indicates that officials may purposefully give preference to her with calls that are comparable to what occurs with NBA legends or the world's best soccer players' stars to prolong her stay in the game and, whether you agree, shield her from fouls. With this concept's ethics or fairness, the primary point isn't that such a desperate, almost extreme, any discussion that takes place at all reveals the league's acute awareness of its precarious state, which is an obvious indication that there has never been a greater stake. And the traditional methods of game management may not be sufficient anymore. The risk of relying on a single star players become excruciatingly evident.
It's going to be real tough. Because even if you're out 3 weeks, you're missing a lot of game, a real portion of the year. All right. The ticket prices. This does not shock me at all. What did I say earlier? The WNBA was about to F around and find out, and these rival teams were going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, they're finding.
What began as an urgent emergency, when since Caitlin Clark's death, she has changed into a profound existential dilemma for how is the WNBA able to adapt strategically, how does it evolve? A wide-ranging roster of genuine talents, and how can a stable future be ensured when its foundation feels so flimsy right now? Wishing for another once-in-a-generation opportunity ability to just step up and take the gap is wishful thinking, not a strategy. Considering the information indicates that even after Clark, the most well-known players haven't been able to prevent a decline in demand, the WNBA must take proactive measures to putting more emphasis on nurturing and promoting several exceptional players. If this isn't done, it could fall into this detrimental trend each time the star player is not playing. Beyond a single wound or a difficult area, it is an essential problem in ticket sales. In the league strategy,
He was the league. Keep in mind, my point I'm trying to get to is when it came out that the league lost $40 million last year, NBA owners that own portions of these WNBA teams were starting to get angry and ask a lot of questions about when is this league ever going to make money. So that tells you there was starting to be a little life support situation happening when the owners were starting to get angry about never making a profit on this league.
Currently confronts a crucial issue: how to mold its future, protect its base, and safe, long-term existence as the dust starts to calm down following Caitlin Clark's abrupt but brief lack of necessity for significant structural change. The stakes have never been higher, transparent, and the repercussions of standing remain utterly terrifying. The WNBA's continued existence and capacity to grow independently and rely solely on increasing and broadening its appeal more than one superstar.
Caitlin Clark, they can make money with the new media rights deal. If that was to fall through for some reason, the league is cooked. Close it down. Or Caitlin Clark could, I don't know, call up Elon, start her own league.
The decision isn't being made by criticism. Written in a harsh, unforgiving style, Caitlin Clark's unrivaled market data impact on the WNBA has come to light. With the severe financial consequences after her brief absence, this unexpected change provided illuminating insight into other gifted athletes who, in spite of her abilities, haven't kept up with her financial already have an effect on her college career. Renowned for shattering records, suggested this remarkable drawing power in today's professional setting. When it comes to Clark, the stats tell the truth. Sidelined Fever home ticket pricing games fell 42%, and the amount the Expected Sky matchup experienced a startling 71% drop in the games overnight that once claimed to have sold out of electric atmospheres now deal with vacant seats a certain and indisputable word directly from the admirers despite Angel Reese and other alluring stars take center stage at the hard truths are still there. Nobody else shows up, nearly equaling Clark's capacity to draw large people, ignite enthusiasm, and move the financial needle, just as she does.
So anybody with a connected brainstem knows that Caitlin Clark is far better of a basketball player and has made such a tremendous impact in a greater number, more so than Angel Reese. Everybody knows that. Her college career was better. The stadium sales, the WNBA popularity has gone up because Caitlin.
This goes beyond a minor hiccup. There's a huge, obvious reminder for the WNBA to fully reconsider the way it expands its market and safeguards its future. Its core is an important query regarding the league's business plan. Is it able to establish an independent, sustainable route that doesn't depend as much on health with the existence of just one celebrity, or will it always depend on the genius and continuous accessibility of an exclusive group of top players? The unwritten, the WNBA's future narrative demands rapid, profound alteration and expansion of its attractiveness, and a dedication to fostering new generations of genuine fans that are drawn to it. Doesn't behave like the league's smartest moments will always be eclipsed by its most obvious flaws, leaving a league with lots of potential looking down on an unpredictable, possibly even ominous future.